So thank you for your time, and let's get going. Okay, so today we're going to have an open conversation followed by a Q&A session about digital hybrid technology with our special guests, Melanie and Thomas, who currently operate a Mark Andy digital press that was purchased by Subtle Impressions in 2019. Subtle Impressions are a North Carolina-based label manufacturer. Also with us today is Christine Top. She will be monitoring the chat and any questions you send. What I would ask though is please type them in the Q&A section and not the chat. We will answer as many as we can at the end of the conversation with our guests. So, flexo printing has several advantages, but the current market scenario we see and demands, in addition to the modern industry needs, imposes challenges to these solely flexographic converters, especially when the technology is compared against digital. So we went out to the market and surveyed more than 250 flexo printers who were ready to take the step into digital and talk about the bottlenecks they found in their press room. From this, we were able to identify 6 of the most common concerns relating to flexo. These were longer lead times, more consumable and material waste, the cost of plate making on multi-SKU jobs, the job changeover times, the pre-press setup, and also the operator's skill set that currently is in the market, and also the press footprint. The unfortunate truth is there's an ever-growing portion of the market that demands faster lead times, multi-versions, shorter run lengths, which, you know, the sad truth is it's making flexo technology less profitable in the narrow web. So, Subtle Impressions. They installed their Digital One back in January 2019 to fulfill their digital printing needs. This provided Subtle Impressions with an alternative to the typically longer lead times of flexo, and it enabled them to enter the digital market in a commercial way. So we're going to go over now to our guests and view the types of bottlenecks, the market trends, and why they started their digital journey. So Melanie and Thomas from Subtle Impressions, welcome, and thank you for taking the time off the shop floor to join us today. I'm going to throw out some questions to you guys, so please feel free to, be as open and answer them how you'd like. So Melanie, perhaps you'd like to just introduce yourself a little bit, how long you've been a press operator for, how you started in the business.
I started with Subtle in '92 and we were a sheet-fed finishing company. We started doing flexo printing around 2000. We added our first small format digital roll-to-roll probably about 2010 and knew it was something we were interested in, but it was not adequate to get into the digital market. And we looked for a while until we found the press we have now, which is the Mark Andy. I've been in printing for many decades and in all different types of printing. So I do mostly I do pre-press and job management, and then I train on new equipment and then teach others how to run that new equipment once we get the business established.
Excellent. So sort of set the operating procedures and pass the knowledge on.
Yes.
Thomas, over to yourself, if you'd like to give us a short introduction.
I've been with Subtle for about 3 months now, and I've been learning the new presses from Melanie here, and I've been in printing for about 12 years. I mean, my father owned a printing company, and started it in 2000, and before that I was doing like a lot of fine art applications, and also just general interested in printing. Again, I've been with these guys for about 3 months, and I'm really excited about learning the new press and finding interesting things to be able to do with it.
Excellent, thank you. Let's cover a little bit about Subtle Impressions. So, I mean, Melanie, obviously you've been there many years. what kind of bottlenecks were you facing that led Subtle Impressions to look at adding a digital hybrid technology?
We weren't getting short run work, and because of the expense, it was, we priced the jobs out of what the customer could afford for the smaller runs. Another thing was timing. Our flexo press is scheduled 2 weeks out usually. A lot of people couldn't wait that long, so we needed something that could yield a faster turnaround.
Excellent. Yeah, it's really pushing the market towards digital. So, I mean, Thomas,
Yeah.
you're an experienced flexo operator. I mean, from your side on flexo, moving away from digital, but on flexo, what do you see there as sort of the bottlenecks or the holdups for these quick turnarounds and short runs?
I mean, most large flexo machines are complex machines. There's a lot of learning curve, especially in the press idiosyncrasies. You've got, especially compared to the digital press, there's a lot more to learn and watch on a flexo press. You have a lot of waste with the flexo press compared to the digital, and obviously the time and the cost for pre-press is nominal with the digital compared to the flexo.
Absolutely. So, I mean, on any of your micro to medium length runs, the Digital Pro makes much more sense than obviously going flexo. So, Subtle Impressions, you purchased in 2019 the Digital One, which was the predecessor to the Digital Pro, and then you upgraded the engine by the end of the same year. So, we'll cover the upgrade decision later. Just a few more questions for you. Had you worked with any digital technology before the Digital One? So throw that out to both of you.
So we had the smaller format Primera machine that was strictly pleasing color. You couldn't control color at all. You were restricted on what materials you could run through it due to its finishing unit. And the Mark Andy, we looked for about 10 years before we found the Mark Andy Digital One, and it really had everything all in one package. And then once we got it, we were told about the engine upgrade option, and it doubled our speed because it truly runs at the 76 foot a minute.
Excellent.
Yeah, I had never worked with any kind of digital press applications at this point before I started here.
Okay. And, sort of thoughts about the digital technology, before you got it, Melanie. I mean, did you have concerns against flexo? Sort of the short run jobs would be challenging, color management, the lower speeds. Were there any concerns there? Or preconceived?
Before we bought the Mark Andy, we really looked for something that we could control color. Color consistency was one of the things we weren't sure about on the digital side. And then when we saw the Mark Andy and saw the print engine they were using, we knew that would not be a problem. So that was a big part of why we chose that press, is the quality of that print engine. And then when we upgraded to the Digital Pro engine, it was just a faster version and the next generation in print.
Okay.
Printing for that digital device. So it was definitely worth it.
And sort of to you again, Melanie, obviously, because you were there at the start of all this. I mean, did you have concerns before the machine came in about, 2 days training? Could you learn it all in this time? How similar to flexo would it be? It's digital, it's going to be hard to run.
To be honest, we really weren't sure what to expect. I think that was the biggest question, is we didn't know what to expect until it got here. The concern was, all right, what are we getting into? But like I said, once we got it, and we did have a little delay in our training just because of some scheduling issues. So it was very easy to learn how to operate as soon as it got here.
Excellent. That's reassuring. So, I mean, Thomas, sort of for you coming in, as a flexo printer coming in now to run a digital machine, I mean, from your side on a personal level, were you worried about how easy it would be to operate, or you're excited
Um,
about the challenge?
for me, I mean, the reason why I wanted to work with Subtle is because they had a digital press. I was mostly excited about working in the digital world. At my old company, we had a lot of thoughts about going into the digital world, and even with thinking about getting the digital one or the digital pro. But you know, so I was really excited to see what we could do with the digital world. And in the digital world, I have a lot of pre-press experience as well. So knowing that in the pre-press room, and then seeing how that's going to translate over to digital technology, it was mostly an excitement for me to be able to work with the Mark Andy digital.
Excellent. So, you know, obviously for you, this is your first digital press. The learning curve was a lot easier than sort of initially thought. So, obviously you have
Oh
pre-press
yeah,
experience. So that's
yeah,
good.
definitely the learning curve on this press was very easy and quick. It was there's not a lot to it really.
Excellent.
Very user friendly.
Very user friendly.
Brilliant. That's what we aim for with the design of all our machines. So, I'll give you guys a break for 2 minutes, just to give a quick overview of the Mark Andy digital solutions. So, Mark Andy launched the Digital One in 2016 as kind of an entry level or additional capacity machine for flexo converters and also commercial printers to enter the digital market. So digital hybrid printing, it's ideal when you need faster lead times without jeopardizing your offerings to customers. The launch of the Digital One was a huge success for us, and it really filled a void in the market between those smaller desktop printers, which, you know, they're not good for commercial runs, they're not very profitable, or the much larger, more expensive digital. So there was a void in the market for the ability to enter into the digital market without that really large price tag, but also to be profitable. So thanks to the success of the Digital One in 2019, it actually evolved to become the Digital Pro. Now this is the second generation, which offers faster speed. It's more modular options, so you can add additional flexo stations before the digital engine, embellishments. There's now an inline sheeting unit, so everything from door tags to menus to postcards. You know, it really opens up what you can offer. All these changes came about from listening to the converters, the market, and the people with the Digital One. So again, we listened to the market and we added what the market needed. Also in our digital offering is the Digital Series HD. It's the second generation also of the Digital Series. And it was launched in 2018. Now this is a larger volume production inkjet press, and it also combines the flexibility of inline converting with a high resolution digital print and the best in class production capability. We call it a true hybrid because it's a single supplier. The whole machine is built and supplied by Mark Andy. It's not a partnership of two suppliers. So let's go back to the Digital Pro machine operated by Melanie and Thomas at Subtle Impressions today. The Digital Pro 3, it's a very unique machine. It's the most adaptable machine in its category. It can run a very wide range of materials and applications, and it takes the interchangeability to a new level. It allows you to print faster and with a lower cost to print, so it increases your profitability and your business growth. The Digital Pro offers inline die cutting, either as full rotary or as semi-rotary. So, as we said before, Subtle Impressions acquired the Digital One, then upgraded to a Digital Pro later down the road by changing the engine. Question over to you, Melanie, if you don't mind. What prompted you as a company to upgrade to the Digital Pro?
We were very interested in the additional speed. The additional speed allowed us to convert some of the flexo work actually over to the digital press because of the quality on the digital press and the fact that it would keep up with a lot that we were doing on our flexo press. So it filled a void we had there. We do a lot of beverage labels, and having that quicker speed allowed us to just get more done, which is what we needed, was more capacity.
Excellent. And now you have the digital pro obviously in there. You've had it a while. I mean, for your business, has it enabled you or given you the ability to serve new markets or new print applications that before weren't really possible for Sussel Impressions?
Well, this past year gave everybody a lot of challenges, and having the digital pro, the upgraded one to a pro, let us fill jobs that we wouldn't have been able to fill with our flexo press. A lot of our customers were doing barrels and kegs of beverage, beer specifically, and weren't necessarily canning because they had tap rooms. Having the digital one, when we were able to do labels for them, when the government shut down and said, you can only sell canned product, you can't have people in your building. So it gave us the diverse ability to fulfill that customer's need, whereas those customers might not have been able to afford to do a flexo label because of plate costs. They don't do the higher quantities. They do high quantities overall, but it's 150 to 700 each of 10 flavors. So that would have been a lot of plates and a lot of setup that it would have priced them out of being able to buy the labels, and we wouldn't have been able to fulfill the orders. But having the digital option, we were able to meet all their needs.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, you know, with so many plates and SKUs on that particular example, it's, as you say, it would have made it not viable for yourself to produce it. So you would have potentially lost the business to another digital or company with digital capacity, or your customer just wouldn't have been able to meet the needs in the current climate. So, I mean, the digital printing itself on your day-to-day press room, I mean, what kind of pain points has it solved for you? So, you know, the consistency from the run to run, capacity to print more in a single shift. So say reducing press time on your flexo for the longer runs.
Yes, it did. It opened up press time on the flexo press because we're able to get those smaller jobs out with the digital press. It greatly reduces pre-press time. A lot of our customers are do-it-themselves designers and don't necessarily know how to build a file to print flexo. So it would take deconstructing their files and rebuilding them to achieve a flexo product. Whereas with the digital, they just have to be CMYK files and we can output them. So that saved hours and hours of pre-press and back and forth with the customer trying to get what we needed to make it work for flexo.
That's a great point. So not only has it opened up capacity on your flexo for the longer runs, it's also reduced sort of the time or man hours required on the pre-press side. So again, I guess another saving.
It also allows us to have a less experienced person participate in the process and help out when we do have a tight schedule. We can get somebody that knows about pre-press to step in and help, whereas with flexo, you don't have that option.
Yes, so yeah, very true point. You can drag somebody from the pre-press department and stick them on the flexo, but here you can when you have to increase to 1.5, 2 shifts.
Yep.
Great answers. Thank you, Melanie. Out to both of you, Thomas and Melanie, in your opinion, what would be the biggest strengths of the machine?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What would you view as the biggest strengths of the machine?
The flexibility of being able to do break in and do another job if the customer needs it, or doing a really quick changeover to another size. The switch over of the die station is twice as fast as it would be on our flexo press.
Yeah, flexibility is definitely the biggest strength. That color management, and the ease of use is a huge one. Like, I mean, just being able to come in and press a button and it prints out, and all you're doing is registering to your die.
Excellent. I remember I've been in print many years, and I remember being on a flexo press and the production manager coming out telling you to pull a job halfway through to put a rush job on, and immediately you've lost 4 to 6 hours of your day. So, the great thing here, I guess, then you find with the Digital Pro is you can just do that, chop and change as customer comes in. I need this, I need it tomorrow. So you can just change the job labels and out they go.
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. So let's cover a little bit on the training and maintenance. This is always an area of interest. So, Melanie, how did you find your training experience on the Digital One? Obviously, there was a bit of a delay at the start, but how did you find it as you went on?
It was great. When it was installed, we got some basic training, and then, like I say, due to some scheduling things, the actual training days were about a month and a half out. But we were able to use the press during that time before the trainer came with those base skills that we already had. And once the trainer came in, it was very easy to learn how to maintain the press and, manipulate jobs within the RIP and produce work.
Excellent. Thomas, to you then. So obviously you weren't trained by Mark Andy, you were trained in-house by, I guess, Melanie. I mean, how did you find the training curve for yourself?
I mean, it was very simple. Like, I would say within a day of coming in and learning, it was, having already known how to use the converting side, it was just like popping in the tool, and then after that, it was clicking a button and learning where to go in the computer, and after that, I mean, then I'm basically running jobs from there on out. So it's like it was very quick and easy to learn how to, straightforward, honestly.
Bill, I'm going to hop in real quick because we actually have a question that came in that's very on topic. And I know we said we were going to wait till the end, but I think you guys can answer this right now. And I think it's very timely. It says, what type of maintenance is involved with digital presses? Where the flexo components needed to be cleaned after each run? What type of cleaning is required on the digital press?
So the flexo unit on our press doesn't get used on a daily basis. So we usually clean up after every job for the sake of just not having the ink sit in the press. With the types of labels we run on our press, we mostly run gloss or matte laminate because they're beverage labels. They really need that seal of protection from water and soaking in an ice bucket. But it's not difficult to clean up the print unit at all.
It's just a 2200 style print unit, so it's just the same as cleaning up a 2200, and which is a very quick and easy process. Other than that, there's grease fittings, there's places you grease, obviously, with running parts. In the engine itself, there's almost no maintenance at all. I mean, really, it's about keeping up with the you can look in the computer and see how many revolutions or ticks that each part has used, and over a period of time, you replace parts. I mean, there's not a lot to it.
There's some basic wiping down of paper dust and making sure you don't have adhesive built up on your rollers, but it's very minimal maintenance for the digital printer and press. You clean the water out of the air compressor on the back on a regular basis, but it's very simple compared to the flexo press.
Yeah, and for me, like I hadn't had any training from Mark Andy until just recently, just over the last week. We had a tech come in and do some parts changing, and he taught me some stuff like how to calibrate and some of the maintenance inside the engine itself. But other than that, I hadn't had any kind of you know, other than that, I had just been trained by Melanie here on the press, and so it was just you know, it had been really easy for me to learn how to use it. I mean, I think at this point she is comfortable with me running it by myself. So.
Thank you, Tom and Melanie. Phil, I'll let you get back to the question.
Yeah, I mean, another point actually on the maintenance, you know, due to the nature of the engine as well, this is the type of digital machine which, you know, you don't have to run every day. Or if you have downtime or breaks, say like the Christmas break, unlike an EP machine, so the electrophotography or the inkjets, not the maintenance level and the amount of care put into it isn't required. It's a machine which, I mean, I think Melanie and Thomas, you guys probably find if you haven't got the particular workload for it, you probably leave the machine for a day or two.
Yes, that is correct. So we got this machine to supplement and to add to being able to help the customer base we already had. So we don't run it every day, a full shift or two shifts. We'll have periods where we'll run it every day in a week, but then we might have a whole week we don't run it. But it's been very helpful to have it when we've needed it. Compared to our flatbed inkjet printer and other devices, the Mark Andy is much easier to maintain. Our inkjet device, we have to pretty much babysit it every single day and do head cleans and print tests. And with the Mark Andy Digital being a toner base, it does its own stirring of the toner and calibration of itself for the general printing. You do have to color calibrate when you've run so many feet, but it's very self-maintained.
Excellent. So, I mean, you sort of really hit on one of the key words there, supplement. So, you know, this machine is to enable Subtle Impressions to offer the digital solution alongside your flexo. You know, if you're only solely flexo, potentially there's an awful lot of work you couldn't have produced or had to turn away or lost on cost. So, you know, this is really where the Digital Pro is aimed at, to enable you to enter the digital market and have that offering to your customers. You know, it's sort of be on the bus or get left behind really these days. So talking of the maintenance, I mean, obviously you carry out quite a lot of it yourself. You know, what sort of level do you bring Mark Andy in for the larger services? Or
because of the service contract we've had them in twice a year. Okay. But I don't think that we would have had them come do the things they did. Does that make sense? If we didn't have a service contract, I don't know that we would have called for a service call. So but since we had the service contract, we had them come in and do a front to back inspection.
So it shows really, I mean, if you have people with the right skill set, the machine is easy enough to maintain yourself really to, well, almost all the way. So
absolutely, just being shown what to do is very simple to learn how to do the things even inside the engine. It's very easy to change and do maintenance and just being able to find how to do that.
And it's pretty easy to troubleshoot too. If you have an issue, you can run a print test and usually tell pretty quick where your issue falls, whether it's a drum or a charger or something in your fuser. It kind of leads you to your answer based on the print test you can run.
Excellent. So it's
I'm gonna just chime in one more time, guys. We're getting some really great questions from our audience, and I thank you all for that. Please make sure to put those in the Q&A for us. Phil, we had a question relative to label stocks on Pro and HD. Can you touch on substrate range and the need for primers?
Okay, so Digital Pro, due to the nature of the toner and the fuser, as long as the material is within the heat range, so direct thermal materials unfortunately would not be suitable. but most other materials will. It is a huge range of substrates this machine can run from, you know, label stock through to tag and board, certain plastics. So really what I'd say with the Digital Pro is come to us with what you need to run, and we can, you know, have a look at what's possible. Priming wise, being toner, no, I don't think. Very occasionally on plastics, you may have to look at a primer. When it comes to the inkjet, I mean, we actually engineered our ink specifically for labels. It's been engineered for labels and label stock. So it's extremely good on the majority of substrates you can find. If the material has a very low surface tension, potentially you would have to prime, but no, it's not like an EP press, which you have to prime basically everything. The amount of priming required is extremely low on the Digital Series inkjet, and probably not even required on the Digital Pro, except for some very exceptional materials.
I will say the materials that we have used are the same materials we use on our flexo press, our water-based flexo press.
That's wonderful. Thank you both. Guys, we're getting so many great questions. I do apologize for popping in here, but I think that these are very timely. Phil, what vendors are approved on this press material-wise? Also, what do you mean by reinsertion?
Okay, so reinsertion is second pass. So you could take a job that's been printed, so you print a generic base on the flexo, on a offline flexo press. You can put it through here to do your digital side. So, you know, if it had large coverage, you could do a flexo wash and then reinsert it through the Digital Pro. And the approved substrate list, I mean, there is a very large list of many of the vendors out there. It's continually growing. So again, the best thing is really reach out to us, and we can discuss this with you. The companies I know are using really the same materials they will, as Melanie says, put through their flexo presses.
Great, thank you, Phil. If you can go ahead and continue. Thank you for letting me interrupt.
Absolutely, no problem. Well, actually, I mean, as we're at this point, you know, let's wrap up on the Digital Pro. Just Melanie and Thomas, I mean, you're both experienced industry veterans. Have you noticed, or what do you notice as new trends within the market, within labels and packaging? How do you see the market going?
This past year changed quite a bit, and a lot of people were going to a more standard size label. They wanted something we had available, so they wouldn't have to invest in tooling. I think that's because they were kind of thrown into having to buy labels that they might not have planned to buy. But they appreciate the fact that we can do those shorter runs, and they like that variable information. You know, we actually did a job for a customer. They had 3 versions of the same label that they wanted on a roll sequential. So we were able to print label 1, label 2, label 3, label 4 in line on the roll for them, so that when they canned, they got a multi-pack. So it's the same flavor of beer, but it had 4 different labels.
Yeah, adding to shelf appeal, and the consumer sees a new label, they think it's a new product and buy it, although it's the same product, just with a different label.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, design-wise, you're seeing a lot more complexity in design, probably due to the availability to be able to achieve those designs. In Flexo, you would have, there are a lot of designs I'm seeing that just really would be very difficult, if not impossible, to run on a Flexo press, just because of registration issues that are coming out nowadays. A lot of bolder, or a lot of really colorful and earthy tone designs, you know, the matte overlams and things like that. It's just like kind of trendy stuff happening in the label world right now, especially in the prime world.
I mean, it goes back to the shelf appeal. They say the consumer makes the decision within the first few seconds of seeing the product. So really it's the shelf appeal. And yeah, you made a good point. Designers have absolutely no idea what goes into printing when they design some of these labels. So without digital, yeah, we'd be in a bit of trouble. So
Oh yeah.
really sort of last question. I mean, I'd like to go to some of these Q&A because I can see a lot of questions coming up, and hopefully Melanie and Thomas, you can possibly help us along with some of these. But, you know, Melanie, for you really, because you started this journey, I mean, what would you tell people who might be thinking of making a move towards adding a digital hybrid technology, but haven't yet made that move?
It's really worth it. You might not realize what you could be doing with it because you haven't done it yet. But when we first got it, like I said, we got it to supplement the flexo press. But once we got it installed and started using it, we saw so many more things we could do with it.
I mean, yeah.
It's so flexible and versatile. It just is so easy to just say, oh, well, we could do this with it.
I mean, honestly, looking at it from coming from a place where we didn't do much prime labels to a place that does almost all prime labels, it's essential to get into the prime market. If you want to get into the prime market, you have to go digital nowadays.
Excellent. That's yeah, some great advice for everyone listening in. I mean, so really the sum up is it's easy to learn, easy to operate, and easy to maintain. Perhaps
yeah.
The third generation we should call the digital easy or something along those lines. So Christine, most we're sort of at this point, we've still got about 20 minutes left. Do we want to try and tackle some of these questions?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you, Phil. First one comes to the whole group. Can you hit on the environment this press needs to be in? Any room, any clean room needed? What are the power requirements? Sorry, it's a four-part question here.
Ooh, sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
I'm sorry. We have this press sitting right beside the flexo press. It's in the same press room with everything else. I don't think there's much requirement as far as environment, unless you want that requirement. If you're doing medical or something like that, obviously, or food grade, you have to have a certain environment. But
controlling the moisture in the room is important. You don't want, it needs to be a conditioned area. You can't stick it in a warehouse that doesn't have conditioning.
Yeah, that's a great.
As long as you keep the room temperature controlled, you shouldn't have any big issues, because that environment will affect your print quality. If it's really, really dry or really, really damp, that affects the static, and the static in the room affects the print quality because it is a toner-based engine and it transfers by electrostatic process.
You answered that better than I probably would there, Melanie. So yeah, I mean, it can just sit in your press room alongside your other machines, but humidity is the important one because of static and moisture. So that's the only point you have to consider really there.
And you have to have good house cleaning. If you have a dusty room, you have to clean up.
But that's the same with flexo. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, regarding the power, it varies depending on your final specification. So really that's a question to answer offline when you know which type of digital pro and what accessories.
Perfect. Alfredo or Tom, if one of you guys can unmute your phones, we have a technical troubleshooting question from an existing Digital Pro 3 customer in Belgium. Do you have any tips for eliminating paper ripping when they drop the die cut plate? Any thoughts? What could cause this?
It depends on your machine setup. If you're running our SR portion or the semi-rotary, you may need to check the values within your die cut from your leading edge offset or the repeat size on both the die as well as the flexo portion of the press.
Great, thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. We have lots of questions on variable data. How is this processed and what is possible with the Pro?
Wow, That's an interesting one, actually. We have at least 3 different software packages available depending on what level you need, whether it's static, whether it's variable data, whether it's multiple variants. So you could go as simple as doing a multi-page PDF, but that's time consuming. You can look at automation software, again, along the lines of multi-page PDF. Or you can look at really pimping the press with an additional standalone server for much larger volume processing, or much larger processing power for bigger volume variable data. So it's absolutely possible, and we have several software options available, which our software specialists can easily address with any customer interested in this.
Perfect, thank you. This one's for Melanie and Thomas. Are you producing any variable data jobs on your digital press currently?
We have. We did not buy any special software. So because we are also a finishing house, we had experience with building variable data files with Illustrator and InDesign. We do a lot of specialty event tickets with custom barcodes and serial numbers. And because we had that background, we were able to easily do a file to run to the Mark Andy.
Great, thank you for that. Workflows being mentioned in the Q&A. Is this on board, or do you need to buy hardware and manage file uploading offline?
So perhaps maybe Melanie, you could share how you send the files to the press.
It's the easiest thing I've ever done. You set up a hot folder, you dump your file in the hot folder, you go to the press and you hit it, you assign your values for the job ticket and press go.
Wow, easy.
It really isn't any high-end special thing you have to do to make it work. As long as you get your layout proper with your iMark and you set up a template for your die, it's very simple.
Yeah. Values being quantities and things like that, not like any more specific than that.
And just sort of furthering on that, we, again, talking of software packages, we have, again, several options depending on the company and the level. If they have in-house pre-press, external pre-press, or the skill set, we can offer everything from, the most basic, sending a 4-color PDF through to a system called Steps with hybrid software, so you can do the stepping actually on the machine.
Great, thank you. Thank you, all of you. The next question that came in, can you run rubber-based and water-based adhesives?
We have run acrylic adhesive and rubber-based adhesive. I'm not sure. I don't know why you couldn't run a water-based adhesive.
Appreciate that. What is the highest line screen Mark Andy digital presses can produce? Both the Pro and HG. Maybe for you, Phil.
So yeah, the resolution is on the digital Pro is 1200 by 1200 DPI, so photographic resolution. The digital series, it runs also 1200 DPI resolution. The Pro being toner, you'll have finer, you sort of see in the vignettes, you'll have smooth vignettes because of the available grayscale, because of the dot size versus the drop size on inkjet. But both are basically HD or photographic images at 1200 DPI.
Okay, thank you so much. Thomas, this one's for you. How long does the color calibration procedure take?
Usually takes about an hour, maybe a little bit less. I've just kind of started learning it, so I'm thinking that eventually I could probably bring that time period down, but it's usually about an hour.
Okay, and how often do you perform it?
As of now, we don't run it every day. Probably about once a week, I would say. We'll probably need to calibrate about once a week. If you see any variance in color or any problems, then obviously calibrate too. It's just like whenever we feel like it's necessary is probably the answer to that question.
if you're running this machine every day, all day, calibrate daily.
Every day, yeah.
So thank you both for that. What? Well, they actually answered my question as I was about to say it. A recommendation from Mark Andy on calibration, but you guys answered that to the T.
I mean, talking. Sorry, go ahead, Melanie.
No, go ahead, Phil. You're good.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I mean, one of the other things is we can remotely connect to your machine. And, you know, we're going to have your baseline calibration. So we can remotely connect and also help you running these. And one of the other advantages of the connection is we can run a pre-health check. So going back to the maintenance side, before we actually arrive to site and then find out you need items, so there's a delay or we have to get an extra delivery, we can actually have a look and come back to you and say, look, we're coming in, this is what the machine's showing us it needs. Are you happy for us to proceed and bring it in? You being the operator will know from the print quality you have whether you do want to go ahead and change it or whether you're happy to proceed sort of as you currently are.
Sure. So kind of in line with what you guys are discussing, how does the quality compare to Flexo?
It is a lot clearer. With Flexo, when you get fine gradients or shading in small areas, it tends to, best word I know how to use is kind of blob or get mottled like marble would. You don't have that with the digital. So what we find a lot of times on our Flexo side is we take a lot of that fine detail out so that you have a quality image, whereas you can leave that in when you run digital. But we have run labels that were the same art Flexo, and then the customer come back and said, oh my gosh, I have to have another 250 tomorrow, and then run on the digital press and be completely acceptable for using in a retail environment.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, coming from another company, this is the flexo press that they have is one of the tightest flexo presses I've ever run, as far as registration wise. And the registration, it doesn't even come close to the digital. Honestly, it's that tight. You won't ever see issues. Almost never see issues. That in color quality, I feel like, in the quality of an image.
Yeah, so
wonderful to hear. Talking about like color and the quality, do customers see a difference in the color, or does it match up well? And based on what you guys are saying, it's doing pretty good.
It is, and you can, that's the nice thing about it being digital. If you don't like the color, you go back to the computer and you change it. You print 5 pages, look at it and go, oh, I don't like that. And then go change it again, and then print 5 pages and go, oh yeah, I like that better. And then run the one you changed. Yeah. You don't have, whereas when you order plates, you're stuck with what's on that plate.
Well, or if you don't like the color on the Flexo, you have to clean up a whole unit and put a new color in, and then if that one's not good, then you got to do it again, and you got to do it again. I mean, it's you know, with people who do prime labels, they can be very particular and want to sit there and go through colors all day long with you. And if you have to clean up a color every time, it can be very time consuming.
Yes, I definitely can imagine that. But we do appreciate you being candid and letting us know your thoughts there. I do have another one. It says, do you produce finished rolls on the press, or do you like a tabletop rewinder for that? It's in the second part of the question. If you do it on the press, how do you present it to the customers, the fact that there will be waste at the start and finish of the roll?
So our workflow for 99% of our work is print the multiple up roll and send it to a rewinder. We have a stand-up automatic rewinder. It's not a flatbed tabletop, because that was already in place for our workflow. With the Flexo press, it was already there as part of our process. We have produced finished rolls off of the machine, and yes, you just tell the customer that there's going to be some setup at the core. If somebody had to have something out the same day and the rewinder was booked for 2 days, you say, well, you can have them, but this is what you're going to see when you get it. You're going to see a bunch of blank stock at the beginning, or some set up, and it's not even bad labels usually, because if you're set up proper, it'll pick back up registration very quickly. So we haven't had that as being an issue. That's what I'm getting at. The customers that we sent finished rolls were fine with the waste on the roll, but you can do either one.
Thank you. So this one goes to Phil. Does the toner have any food compliance claims?
So yeah, the Sumitomo toner has TUV Rhineland, which is more applicable to Europe. And there is some, perhaps Alfredo could jump in here, but I believe it does have FDA compliance for indirect contact.
Alfredo or Tom?
Or Tom Pop.
Help with that question?
I do believe it has FDA compliance for indirect food contact.
Great, thank you. This is going to be the last question, then we're going to open it back up to Melanie and Thomas just for the end of our presentation. Phil or Tom, since we have you both online, we have a Digital Series HD customer asking if the tooling is compatible from their QCDC SR in the Pro semi-rotary module.
I think unfortunately not, because it's a DSI, reflex DSI station. I'm starting to doubt myself now.
We understand, Phil. We're putting you on the spot. Tom, do you have any extra added mention in here with regards to?
I believe this semi-rotary should allow for you to use your flexible die plates from any of our machinery.
This is magnetic, so it currently uses 2200 magnetics.
Right, so you wouldn't be able to use the magnetic cylinder, right, but the flexible die plate you would be able to use from machine to machine.
Great. Appreciate that. Phil, I'll let you continue, but for anyone we did not get to answer their question today, we will have a representative reach out to you and get you that answer.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, just to wrap up, I mean, Melanie and Thomas, thank you again from all of us for taking the time out of your day and off the shop floor to join us and share some of your experience and advice. Thank you to Subtle Impressions for allowing you time out of your day to come join us. I hope they don't make you work extra hours tonight. Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear customer feedback on how the digital hybrid has helped you move the business along and how easily it was sort of integrated into your business and helped you grow. So thank you for your time. No more questions for today.
Thank you.
Thank you both. So, I mean, just to wrap up in general, any questions we haven't answered, please send it to marketing@markandy.com and one of the specialists will come straight back to you with an answer, or we can help you further. If you'd like more information, again, email marketing. If you'd like some samples, or if you'd like us to run samples of your own business portfolio, we can do that initially. We can then run simplified costings. We can do a full costing. Or if you'd like us to run some samples or have a demo, we can do these either directly or remotely due to the current travel restrictions. So please reach out to marketing@markandy.com and we can arrange whatever will help you along and enter into your digital journey. So thank you everyone for joining, and yeah, have a good rest of the day or evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.